Behind every single medicine on your pharmacy shelf, there's this hidden story of just intense scrutiny. It's a journey through a literal mountain of data and a gauntlet of tests, all building up to one single critical decision. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and unlock the official files to see exactly how a modern blockbuster drug really gets the green light.
And this isn't some high-level overview. We are diving deep into the FDA's actual internal review documents for Wegovy, one of the most talked about weight management drugs out there. These are the real memos, the raw data, the back and forth that determined its fate. We're going right inside the process to see how the final call was made. The whole thing kicks off with one massive submission, the new drug application, or NDA. And let me tell you, this is not just some form you fill out. It's this colossal collection of a company's entire research program. We're talking years of clinical trial data, manufacturing secrets, scientific arguments, all packed in there for the FDA to pick apart.
And that really started the clock on one of the most anticipated drug reviews in years. Now, what's really crucial to understand here is that this application wasn't for a brand new molecule they discovered yesterday. The active ingredient, semaglutide, was actually already on the market under the name Ozempic for type 2 diabetes. This new application was proposing a totally different use, at a higher dose, specifically for chronic weight management.
All right, so once the core science is submitted, you might think it's all about chemistry and biology, right? Well, a huge part of the review actually shifts from the lab to, believe it or not, communication. The FDA has an entire team dedicated to scrutinizing every single word that goes on the patient label. And check out this quote from an internal FDA memo. It really says it all. The FDA wants all patient materials written at a 6th to 8th grade reading level. And believe me, this isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's a hard requirement. The logic is pretty simple. For a drug to be safe, the instructions have to be understood by pretty much everyone.
This checklist just shows you how deep in the weeds they get. It's about so much more than just being factually correct. Is the language totally free of any marketing hype? Is there extra info that could just cause confusion? They even get down to the font, mandating things like Arial to make sure it's readable for patients with vision loss. Every little detail is fine-tuned for safety.
Next up, we get into what is maybe the single most difficult challenge in any drug approval, facing the unknown. I mean, how does the FDA even begin to regulate risks that might not show up for years, or maybe even decades? This is the million-dollar question for the FDA's risk assessors. And for Wegovy, two really big concerns stood out: a very rare type of thyroid cancer and the potential effects during a pregnancy. So let's start with that cancer risk. In studies with rodents, this whole class of drugs had shown it could cause something called medullary thyroid carcinoma, or MTC. But here's the thing. In humans, MTC is incredibly rare. It only makes up about 1 to 2% of all thyroid cancers. And to put that number into perspective, the annual rate for MTC in the general population is as low as 0.22 cases for every 100,000 people. It's like trying to find a needle in a continent-sized haystack. And here's the problem. The FDA basically concluded that their existing safety monitoring systems just weren't built to track such a rare cancer that can take decades to pop up. There just wasn't enough long-term data to say, yes, there's a risk, or no, there isn't.
The second big unknown was the drug's effect during pregnancy. At the time of the review, the data they had on humans was just tiny. The company's safety database had information from only 47 pregnancies. I mean, that's way too small of a sample size to draw any real conclusions.
So this put the FDA in a classic, really tough spot. On one hand, animal studies were raising red flags, showing potential issues in fetuses. But on the other hand, the human data was just a wash, totally inconclusive and often muddied by the mother's own health problems. They were trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. We've talked a lot about the drug itself, but what about the device that actually delivers it? Because in a product like this, the engineering and the production of that injector pen is every bit as critical as the medicine inside of it.
And the reason is simple, right? A perfect drug is completely useless if the patient can't deliver it correctly and safely. That's why the FDA's device specialists ran a completely separate parallel review that focused only on the Wegovy pen injector.
And you better believe their examination was meticulous. They broke the pen down to its core parts. The entire design is all about safety and simplicity. Take the needle cover. It's not just a cover. It's the trigger that starts the injection, it's the lock that prevents reuse, and it's the shield that hides the needle after you're done. Every single piece has a job to do.
The design is meant to be pretty much foolproof. There's no button to find and push.
You just press the pen firmly against your skin, and then you listen for 2 clicks. The first one means the injection is started, and that second click means it's all done. That simplicity is the result of a ton of engineering and testing.
And this pen was put through the absolute ringer. Reviewers ran it through a whole battery of stress tests, checking everything from dose accuracy to the exact force you need to activate it. The pen had to work perfectly, not just in a pristine lab, but in the real world, in extreme heat, in the cold, even after being dropped or shaken. It has to be reliable every single time.
So after months of scrutinizing the drug data, picking apart the patient labels, checking the manufacturing, and stress testing the device, what was the FDA's final decision? The device part of the product was deemed approvable. It met all the FDA's standards for safety and performance. The science and the engineering were solid. But, and this is a big but, that was not the end of the story. The approval came with some major strings attached. To deal with those long-term risk questions, the FDA ordered 2 post-market registries. First, a 15-year study to track all new cases of that rare thyroid cancer to see if a link shows up over time. And second, a pregnancy registry to proactively collect data. So approval didn't end the investigation, it just kicked off a whole new long-term phase of it. And it really leaves you with this final thought, right? We always celebrate that eureka moment of scientific discovery. But as this whole process shows, the journey from a breakthrough in a lab to a medicine that you and I can actually trust, well, that's a whole different mountain to climb, built on a foundation of intense scrutiny, meticulous engineering, and a promise to keep chasing the unknowns.